Alright, video 2 in the skip tracing. I'm going to give you a little more information. Guys, as I add videos, they're going to get more and more and more specific. It's to lead you through step by step because you got to get larger concepts first and then put the rest of them into place. I will be doing more videos on skip tracing. However, let's talk with this is the second basically initial skip tracing video I'm doing. If you're not going to use a service, and the ones that I recommend are microbuilt.com, call Randy Mostetler, that should be on your resources page or in your ebook itself. There are others that work, Intellius, LexisNexis, etc. You're welcome to use whatever you want. It's your business, guys. However, and we're amazed at what kind of hit rates we get with Google. Literally, google.com. You plug in a cross-reference with them, though, guys. That's why, by the way, it's important to get that address. The address is giving you city, state, often zip code, even the street address, and that can be a great place to start. You can use that as a cross-reference. What I mean by that is you're going to put their name in, and then you're going to add in that city or that state and see what hits. Okay, and you're going to be amazed how powerful Google is. I'm blown away every time I look at it. Again, that's why you want the notification addresses, especially if they're different than the actual foreclosure address, because you'll know, okay, yeah, the guy had property in Florida, or rather Texas. We're talking about Texas right now, but he had property in Texas, but he lived in Florida, or he lived in Miami, he lived in New Jersey, whatever. That's a way to cross-reference, and again, that's why you want foreclosure address and you want notification if you can get that notification addresses. Oftentimes, you can look that up in the tax records. They have online tax records, and often they will archive old owners. So if you got the address, you know when it foreclosed, you can see it changed hands at that same time. Here was the ex-owner, here's the new. That's a great way. All right, Pacer for 10 cents, you can also, it has notification addresses for those, and they're often updated for those people that also went into bankruptcy. Well, 15% of the people that went into foreclosure also went into bankruptcy. Hey, that's a pretty good hit rate, guys. Use Pacer also for additional addresses to try to find the people. Especially, you're going to find oftentimes where the foreclosure happened 3 years ago, but Pacer, which costs 10 cents a search, they've got a bankruptcy that just hit, so that's probably a right address. That's a huge, huge resource for you, and it's very cheap. Okay, at 15%, you got to do 7 of them. You got to search 7 to find one that's going to work. Let's say only half of those are recent, though. Okay, so you got to search 14. You just spent $1.40 to find somebody. That's cheap. Okay, if you're thinking that's expensive, you're in the wrong business. All right, start small. In other words, start geographically small and then work your way out. People don't tend to move huge distances in most instances, especially when you get into the South, that people tend to stay longer or within the same state or geographic area, simply because there's more opportunity right now as far as work, period. Texas in particular. All right, use a database management software. Okay, I got a lot of calls on this. I did have a friend that came to me and said, hey, I've got this program and it's fantastic, and it does look great on the surface. A lot of you guys can't afford that. We use ACT. We use actually the ACT cloud system. I'm going to get into what we put in there and plug in, because that's going to be important. We use ACT. You can use Excel. Excel is excellent to use. You can even use you can use Outlook, obviously. You can even use Word. Just plug the information. Make sure you plug in the information you need. Excuse me, on separate lines, because you can always go back and hit Control F, right? Open up the document, hit Control F, put in the last name. It'll find it for you on there, and that's important. Last name. You need a central reference when you're trying to find these people. We go by name. Why? Because all of our mailings are going to be addressed to the claimant regardless of where it's going, even if it's going to an associate or a relative. That way we can say, what's the name on the card, right? You need a central reference, something where you can pull a file off the shelf and now you know what you're working. And just a quick side note here, when people do call in, you might want to say, I've got scripts in there, but you might want to say, hey, listen, I need to pull a file. I need to pull the file. What's the best number to call you back on? Don't be running around because they're going to expect you to do that forever. You set the tone from the get-go. All right. Use the database management software. Filing. We do double sleeves. We find that works good just because we've got a central sleeve, then we pop the other one back inside of it. And we use medical sleeves where stuff is pointing out first, and then inside is the actual sleeve for the information. alphabetically by name, case name, guys, case name. Even if the actual person entitled is a different person, go by case name. Call-ins. Let me write a note there since I said that. Okay. Again, mailing always addressed to the claimant. Ask what that was. That's going to be your key to find it as you put it away. Guys, real quick, I want to go into those of you that are, you realize it's really going to be good for you to enter at least some information up front, so you have a record, a digital record of what's going on, so you've got a cross-reference in addition to the actual sleeve. Now listen, the sleeve's going to be important because especially if you're using microbill, for instance, you're going to keep that in the sleeve with whatever information you have. Now, as you get mailings back, you can cross off those addresses. So next time you do a mailing, yeah, I know I'm in the Stone Ages, but it works the best. Next time you do a mailing, you can look and see, okay, I scratched all these off. I'm down to these 5. I'm going to do a mailing for these 5 instead of all 12 again. Okay, it sounds simple, but people just don't think to do that. All right, initial info that you want to input into whatever program, even if it's Word, I don't care. Case name, the name of the case. You want that. Case number. Okay, there should be a file number or case number. Type of case. Okay, and now in Texas it's going to be a tax overage. Foreclosure date, important to know because there are limits sometimes on how far down the road you can claim overages. Date reviewed, you want to know when you did the research on this thing. Foreclosure versus, free and clear versus encumbered. If there's something in the way, you want to make a note of that. You really don't want to go after it, guys. If, for instance, Bank of America is entitled to the money in Texas, you don't want to do that. They're going to show up. You want to go after, in that case, only a Wells Fargo type deal or HSBC. Those are the ones we have agreements with. You're going to find very few, a small percentage, maybe 30%, are encumbered, meaning there's a bank in the way that they're entitled to the surplus funds. And throw out the ones that we're not working with. Okay. You want a notes section on there, guys, because you want to be able to plug stuff into there. However, the majority of your notes are going to be, usually you're going to use the notes section on your Excel or whatever you're using. And if you can't afford that, use Word. Put a little notes section, next line, whatever. Put that in there as far as that's your conversations with people. You need a date and time for that and what you talked about. ACT, of course, does that automatically. Excel, it's easy to input. But you want a notes section, okay? All right, property address, you need that in there too. If there was not an address, just a parcel because it was vacant land, of course, put that in. Dollar amount that's held, that's going to, of course, be important. You need to know that. County and state where it is. Obviously, most of you guys that are seeing this from Texas, but county and state. Contact info, you don't put any of that in. That's on your microbill printout or whatever you're using. I'd handwrite that for now, all the possible addresses, because you're going to cross through it as you get the mailings in. Remember, when you get the mailings in, oftentimes it will say 40 order expired, but then it'll give you that address. Look carefully at that. All right, that's a good way. I'm getting you guys now set up on how to set in the data, get things started, get it organized so you can keep track of what you're doing, because you're going to be getting calls from people. You need a place you can put these things. We tend to use shelves just because it's out when it's an active file, and then when it's a dead file, we throw it into cabinets. Anyway, follow this as it's written, guys. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. I will be getting back with you on more specific as far as working microbill, that type of thing. This is video 2 on skip tracing. Primarily, again, what you're going to enter, how you're going to go about it. Thanks.